This is episode 23 of Healthy Kids, Simple Solutions. I'm your host, Dr. Steven Stin. I practice out here in Elkhorn, Nebraska, and what we're going to be talking about on this episode is behavioral issues in school or at home or really anywhere, and we're going to be looking at it from a brain development standpoint and just kind of putting it through a brain development lens. So I'm going to divide the brain into two different parts for the purpose of this video. We have the cortical part of the brain, which is the higher level part of your brain. It's what really makes us human. It's why we're smart. It lets us succeed in school. It helps us regulate behavior. It lets us use logic and problem solving and reading. It's really our school brain. So the development of this cortical part of the brain that directs behavior, specifically the part of the cortical part of the brain that directs behavior, is dependent on how the lower part of the brain is developed. So this part of the brain down here is called the subcortical area. So you have your cortical area, which just means cortex, and you have your subcortical area, which just means below the cortex. So the development of the mature functioning behavior up here is really dependent on proper development of the subcortical structure. So in essence, the subcortical area of your brain must develop properly before the cortical areas of your brain can develop properly, because your brain grows from the bottom up. So first this must be good, and then this can be good, and that's where really we're going to get that mature functioning behavior. So what's the easiest way to see if your subcortical area of your brain developed properly? And that's testing primitive reflexes. So if any of you are familiar with my material, you know I talk a ton about primitive reflexes. For those that don't know, primitive reflexes are reflexes that we're born with. They're there for about the first 6 months of life. They're really just there to help get everything going, get everything kick-started, make sure we survive those first 6 months, and then their job's done and they should go away. But for a lot of these kids, they stick around. And what that means is it's literally a direct window in saying that this subcortical brainstem area did not develop as properly as it could have, because if it did develop properly, those primitive reflexes wouldn't be there. So that's really the thing that you need to do is get primitive reflex assessment done to see if those subcortical areas of the brain develop properly. So if you're like, how do I do that? Where do I get a primitive reflex assessment done? That's what we do in the office. That's always what we do on our new patient exam, is testing to see if you have primitive reflexes and what primitive reflexes you have, so we know which ones need remediated. So that's really what would be the next step. So also, if your child's struggling behaviorally, I can almost guarantee it, virtually all kids that are struggling behaviorally have a gluten and or sugar overload. There's too much gluten, too much inflammation attacking that subcortical area of the cerebellum and really inflaming it and not letting it work properly. So then obviously the cortical area is not going to work properly if the thing below that is not working properly. So eliminating gluten, eliminating sugar, getting your child a primitive reflex assessment are the three things I can recommend if they are struggling behaviorally. If you want to schedule that primitive reflex assessment and that initial exam to just see if that's what's contributing to behavioral issues, you'll have to call the office for that. Our number is 402-504-4676. Otherwise, you can message us on Facebook. You can ask for an appointment on our website. Any three of those will work great. But that's what I have for you today. That's what I see contribute to behavioral issues. It's a little bit shorter Facebook Live today. But with that, I will see you guys tomorrow for episode 24 of Healthy Kids, Simple Solutions. So I will see you guys then. Have a good evening.